What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there on this Monday, June 10th, 2024, episode number 92? I'm Alex Cuesta. Partner in crime over there is Dave Hyatt. And Dave, how many more times this year can we say, what a weekend that we have had? Like, I think it's every weekend. I don't think we've gone an episode where we haven't said, even on like the off weeks, we've had some crazy things to talk about.
It was a tremendous weekend at the high school, collegiate, pro level.
Yeah.
But I'm still just pissed off.
And we will talk about your anger in a little bit. Before we do that, we just want to thank everybody out there right now who is watching on YouTube, watching on X. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe, smash that like button, leave a comment. All that helps. If you're watching on X, give us a repost or whatever it's called now. Give us a follow. And the most important, spread the word of mouth. Talking Nobles is on. We are here and we are going to bring the best track and field running, content, throwing, all that in general to you. Now, we are on our quest on YouTube for 50 subs. We are up to 40 now, plus one from last week. And on X, we're on our quest for 1,500. We're up 3 to 1,032. So thank you to everybody who subscribed. Thank you to everybody who followed. We appreciate you all. So last week's show, we had on Eric Holt, 1,500 meter runner for Empire Elite. And he was 0.04 seconds away from not only defending his 1,500 meter title at the New York City Grand Prix over in Icon Stadium, but also 0.04 seconds away from beating a world champion,
Whiteman.
And he's still unsponsored. And he also beat, and here, before we even get into that, I am going to share a screen here because I think people need to see this because this is important right here. Real quick, this is who he beat. He beat the who's who of American 1,500 meter running, to be quite honest.
Well, I mean, minus, a few, but yeah.
Minus a few, but if you're looking at the names here, these are all names, Vince Chieti has been coming on strong, or Chieti.
How about Grant Fisher dropping a 334 for the 15?
I mean, arguably the best American distance runner of all time with the range now. That 334 is incredible. But beating Hobbs Kessler, being the first American there, losing to a world champion, Eric Holt, shout out to you. You
love the guy.
We appreciate it. Can we get the man a sponsor?
It's ridiculous.
It's done here.
It's at the point now where there is no explanation of why this man is not like it's
laughable. That's honestly the best.
To me now, it's got to be just like Spite or something. There's no other logic. I mean, he's run 351, 334. He has just as good of a chance as almost anybody outside of Goose and maybe a couple other people to make it. I mean, I'm
telling you right now, he's making the Olympics. He's making that Olympic team. Just the way he's running so much, like the confidence that he has to have, almost winning a kicker's race too. It wasn't like this was a strung out 334. Like they kicked and they kicked hard. And the biggest travesty, Dave, it wasn't on TV, but we'll talk about that with our guest because that is just just as bad. Before we jump in real quick, we want to talk about our buddy Adam Nalvin once again throwing on the third annual River Rock and Run 5K Saturday, November 16th. It is open for registration. Go look up River Rock and Run 5K on Facebook. You'll find out where to register there. All the proceeds go towards Mom at the Notion Food Bank to go and try and fill it up as much as they possibly can with the money raised. There's good food at the end. There's some beer at the end. So please go sign up. It's for a great cause. You can either run it in relay fashion, so there could be two of you that run 1.5 each, or you could just run the full 5K. So go give our buddy Adam a hand there in a great charity event.
Yeah.
And in terms of PRs, we don't have that many, but before we do, I want to bring in our guest. He's been hanging out long enough. He is someone that we've had on before and someone that we're always grateful to have on. He is Phil Grove. And what are you doing up there, Phil? What's going on here? He is.
I didn't do that.
I don't know. It just does things. But he is a FloTrack live stream announcer, the voiceover, especially at the BU meets, and PA MileSplit, Western PA office writer, and he is old school track on Twitter.
Wednesday night he will be your announcer for the New Jersey Meet of Champions on FloTrack.
Yes, he will. So that is exciting. What's going on, Phil? Thanks for coming on.
Hey, not too much, guys. Thankfully, Monday night is pretty open for me. I had a busy weekend. I was back in the Buckeye State for the Nike Presents Katie Moon Pole Vault Classic.
Nice. That's a great meet.
A one-off event, just women's pro pole vaulting. I was feet from the runway, defending Olympic and world champion twice over. Katie Moon returned to her high school alma mater, Olmsted Falls. They had a new track put in a couple years ago, navy blue and gold, just looked fantastic. And of course, the lady that everyone came to see ends up with the victory, matches the Olympic standard, but it was a great competition. 11 top American vaulters, including one, Dave, that represents that little sign behind you, Rutgers University.
Yeah,
Chloe Timberg.
CBW, Central Bucks West and Eastern PA, fresh off her 471, took the red eye to Cleveland, a little bit tired, but she still finished, I believe, 4th overall, and just had a great competition, a wonderful young vaulter with a tremendous future. She took the road let's say less traveled to go to Rutgers as far as the pole vault, not one that's up there in the top 4 or 5 nationally when you think of pole vault schools. But she won a national championship. Then a couple days later, hours later, she's in Cleveland getting ready for a great experience. She told me for her and her career competing with the pros.
I mean, shout out to Katie Moon for having it at her old high school, bringing everyone there. I mean, how cool is that for that town and that school? Not only to have Katie Moon as an alum, but to have her bring all these pros back. That's what track needs more of. Good feel-good stories like that. I absolutely love it. And shout out to Chloe for making that trip. She realized how important that it was to compete with the other women vaulters. And, I mean, she had a hell of a few days.
Oh, absolutely. And it was, again, just the next to last day for the American track and field athletes to put a mark up on the table to see if they could get their ticket punched to the Olympic trials. So it really meant a lot. One of the athletes, and again, another plug for a Western Pennsylvania athlete that I covered extensively, both her high school and college days, Marissa Kelsey, Westminster College 2017 D3 national champion, 422, an event that was moved indoors up at Spire in Northeast Ohio. She blew out her ankle first meet her senior year in 16, got a medical hardship, came back in 17, won the national championship in D3, was an 8-time All-American in the pole vault, something unheard of. And she needed basically a 448 to get in the trials, and they set the meet up. So anybody who needed that mark started at 418. She hit the 448, a lifetime best, and she came off the mat just happy as a clam. Really looking forward to her first shot of the U.S. Olympic trials, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And, we'll see Chloe over at the trials as well. I think she qualified with her national championship.
Yeah.
So, and she jumped 460 at the Penn Relays, but went 471 in Eugene.
So we're excited to see, obviously representing Jersey, representing Dave's alma mater. So we're very pumped about that. So I do want to jump in quickly. These aren't PRs. These are just shout out to some of our past guests and things like that. Westfield over there winning the Group 4 meet, which was amazing.
Highly contested.
Competitive, and just great teams over there between them. You have Toms River North finishing second, which juggernaut team, just a war. And then South Brunswick came in strong with the great third place finish. Our buddies over there, Wilfredo Rivera and Adam Nalvin. So awesome job to everyone there. Dave, you also have a quick little shout out.
Well, I mean, I want to give a shout out to our high hurdler from Manasquan, Ace Etienne, qualified as a wild card, broke the school record around 14.83, which is crazy that only qualifies 23rd. It just proves how fast the 110 hurdles are. And our Lacey guy, Steve Geiger's kid, Andrew Tadisher, running a 929 and qualifying for MOCs as a wild card.
Thank you for saying it correctly. Tadisher. I'm happy. We've been butchering that for weeks and weeks and weeks. Months. And so I'm very happy that we got that. And I did have something from Alex Lynch's athlete over at Ocean, the female thrower over there. I'm pretty sure.
Emmy Segal?
Yeah, dominated in, I think,
both. She won Group 2 in both, the shot and the disc. Yep.
Yeah, so just excited. Shout out to her. I mean, if you or anybody affiliated with you comes on Talking in Ovals, you're going to do great things. And that's just, how it works. We are the lucky charm here. So I'm excited for all that. Anyone else? I'm excited to hear the PRs that we're going to get from Mox and things like that. So pumped for that. And
we're going to see Clayton Murphy bounce back and run a 145. He'd been struggling a little earlier in the year, but he's starting to round back into form again. Trials are in 2 weeks.
And I'm excited, all the past guests that we've had that are going to trials, your Justin Stafford, your Jordan Geist, Hope Bender, Elena, like we've had on a bunch of people that are going. Derek Holdsworth. So good luck to all of them. And we are, we're excited to be able to have talked to them. And we are equally rooting for all of you, even if you're kind of, in the same events and stuff like that. But we're pumped to see all you there. So if I didn't mention one of you, I apologize. But
Jordan Geist.
We've just had so many on. And we'll, we'd love to have you guys back on at a later time. But I want to get into our show this week because we have Phil on and we're not going to waste Phil and his wealth of knowledge here. And I want to jump into something that I think we've all been noticing. There are so many young athletes that are just thriving in distance. There was the kid, I just scrolled by it, that ran the 13:25, Daniel Simmons, setting the 5K record. He shattered the one from last year, 13:34. Phil, what's going on? Why are there so many fast young kids right now, men and women, just going crazy?
Well, I know I've seen tweets out there. Other people are wondering it too, not just the three of us. And it's a combination of things. And I know I've had conversations with some old school people than myself when it comes to track and field. I'll throw out his name, Sam Bear. I think I mentioned Sam before when I was on. An All-American at Kent State University, ran against Jim Ryan. Ryan was one of his, main rivals. He gave up probably 8 to 10 inches, maybe more in height, to the great Kansas runner and world record holder and America's, again, first GOAT in the mile, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But Sam, just the combination of everything, the greater knowledge by coaches, the greater knowledge for the athletes when it comes to sleep, nutrition, the technology in tracks. I mean, Sam Bear was running on cinders indoors even back in the 60s, so it wasn't that long ago. I mean, when I was in high school and graduated from high school in 1982, we had cinder tracks at a lot of our stops. I mean, obviously all weathers at the district, regional, and state in Ohio. But my home track was cinder for a long time after I left, finally got an all weather. But, just the combination of all of that and maybe focusing on one sport. Back not too long ago, there were 3 sport athletes, one for each season, and they went from one into the other. And now, if you get a runner focusing on cross country, he's going to either put in the mileage, maybe not dedicate a lot of competitive time indoors. To indoor track, but then come out ready to go outdoors. Obviously, Daniel Simmons, as you mentioned, another one who is, in my mind, his equal, Drew Griffith from Butler, PA, crushing the miles.
357
daily, and the doubles and triples he put together that I saw, just was so honored to be a part of. When he's throwing an 8, a 16, and a 32 within less than 6 or 8 hours indoors. He went 4:02 at the PA State indoor meet on Penn State's banked oval, and then he came back. I don't know exactly how much later, but an hour to 2 in the distance medley relay. The team was 7th when he got the baton, almost 12 seconds back. After going 4:02 in the full mile, he goes 4:07 and takes the team from 7th to 1st, and they win by 3.5 seconds.
Incredible.
The crowd just went bonkers. It hit his home invite early this year, went 4 flat 77. They put a mile on the deck, and he almost went sub 4. And when he finally did at the state meet, albeit in the 1600, he said, "You think that's good enough?" And then he goes down to St. Louis at Hoka and runs, a 357 and change. That the kid is just so talented. It makes it look so easy. I had somebody come up to me and say he makes it look casual, and not in a condescending bravado way, but just he comes across the line, looks like it was a tempo run. But it's a combination of all those factors. And Daniel Simmons also brings it to the table, I think, a little better in the longer races. Like you mentioned, that 5K that he just put together, just insane. But I know Drew Griffith has some races coming up. He's supposed to go out to Brooks PR, which is in a couple days, and then quickly, just like Chloe Timberg did, come back east for the race at Franklin Field.
Real quick, Dave, I'm always wary of the athlete that dedicates to one sport. And I get it. Distance running is a little different, right? Because you want to do XC, you want to do indoor, you want to do outdoor. But it is always concerning with these incredibly talented athletes of just how much leash do you give them, right? Especially with distance running, because you have so many different runners. We probably have all seen those individuals that can crush 100 miles a week and it doesn't affect them. And then you have individuals that are doing 50 and they're getting shin splints, they're getting hurt. And there's so much like tempering to do there. I feel like it's got to be so much harder now. Like, yes, nutrition's better. Yes, sleep is better. Yes, training is better. But holding some of these young athletes back, because I can imagine, Simmons and all of them, they all have each other on Strava. They all know what the workouts each other is doing. So I feel like it's got to be so hard as a coach to sit there and look and go, ignore that. You as a person on the outside looking in, do you see any possible concern with the way some of these athletes maybe cool down if they're going too hard, or because you've been around the sport for a long time now? So do you see anything that maybe could indicate that there may be some issues later on? Because that's always my concern. They run so fast now, but what are they going to do in college? What are they going to do as pros? It's always so hard to predict when you have phenoms. It is, but I think as of late, we've seen it different. Like Webb made it. A lot of, I think, is another one a lot of these guys who are great young have been able to hold. Like, look at Gary Martin now, still running, really, really, really well. He was a sub 4 guy last year. So I think training now is at the point, kind of like Phil said, and with the shoes, like everything's just based upon being able to recover faster. So I don't think we're having those issues that we had in the past. How about you, Phil? What do you think about all that?
Alex, I think to your point, the coaches that are able to, either because the way their state competitive situation is set up, I know in Pennsylvania there's, at least in District 7, which is a WPIL, they have an actual team championship format. So you're going to go out there and in a bracketed dual meet competition, in addition to the individual qualifying for the state meet in Shippensburg. So those teams are in the mix there, and that was Butler was one of those. So Drew Griffith, had to run in those team meets where it's actually a dual meet. You put 3 kids in each event and you battle dual meet style against another team. That's after your regular dual meet schedule. So these coaches that are able to rest their athletes appropriately, maybe just go out there, okay, hey, Drew, we need, 10 points from this meet from you, go out and go, 157 and a half and, 420, and he's going to win. But I've had coaches, tell me that, they didn't want to pass along to a major college program, quote unquote, damaged goods. They didn't want to really run these 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds into the ground with lots of races. So if they're able really to dial in, and I'll go back to Drew, just a couple days after he went 403, 841, and 152 at the district meet, I stopped in at the track before I was headed to another district for a workout and did a workout video where he was doing 1K repeats, and that was something that they found that really helped him tremendously. Yeah. And he didn't have to go out there and pound 400s or whatever. It was just 1Ks that he was clicking off with very minimal rest in between. That the people that I told what the rest was in between, they were just marveling. He was going out and running every K 250, 251, just like it was nothing.
I'm very surprised that there hasn't been a rule in place. And I don't want to see this because I want to see coaches and athletes communicating. But I'm surprised there isn't a rule for the number of races an athlete can run in a year. Cross-country, indoor, and outdoor season, like numbers per season. Because I feel like, we don't have the injury pandemic that I think would cause that. But I feel like that's something interesting that, maybe to prevent running these kids into the ground. Because we've seen programs that have done that to athletes where they bury them early and then late they can't perform. And it's because they're running far too many races. And they're running far too many competitive races, right?
I think
like you said, there's a value of taking a race or two off, competing but not going full bore.
I mean, I think that's up to each coach. I mean, they do have in place, at least here in Jersey, the amount of events that you can run at each meet. I don't know if they'll ever put a cap on how many meets you can run in a season, because that's affecting team places too, and the whole team outlook, not just the individual.
Yeah, but you can't put the team over the kid. That doesn't, especially in an individual event.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like sometimes the best way, and listen, I'm not accusing anyone or not saying anything, but sometimes the best way to protect the kid is also from the coach, right? If a program has a great tradition, we've seen this in other sports. Football is a very physical sport. Some coaches will bury that athlete that has a hiding injury just to get glory.
I don't think you see that as much now as you did years ago. I think that most coaches now are pretty astute of how to get everyone going and what's best for the athlete. But I don't know. I'm just
seeing the injury.
I'm just glad that we're seeing what we are seeing now with all these young kids, and you hope that they can sustain it for as long as they want to.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll jump in also the relationship between, let's say, a club coach and the high school coach, to make certain that they're both on the same page. The club coach knows the importance of, the Screaming Eagles winning a district title or whatever it may be. That's important to not only that young boy or girl, but also the kids who are around him running the relays with them.
Absolutely.
And it's a difficult thing, right? Because you don't want to stop these kids from getting the successes and, helping the team at big meets. But I just think, like we said, we haven't seen it yet, but it's just something that drew up in the back of my mind. So, Phil, I want to pick your brain. Outside of Drew over in PA, who else should we be looking at, men's and women's side, as these phenoms or maybe future phenoms that you're seeing coming in as freshmen and really performing well, and someone that we may be looking for that's going to burst into the national scene soon?
Oh, well, I tell you, definitely still in the distance races. On the women's side, you have the young lady from California, Sadie, who is just, I got a chance to talk to her indoors at Boston University. She was in town for a double. She ran at BU. I think she ran 1,000 meters, and then she was going over to the New Balance the next day to run in the Grand Prix. And the funny thing is, she isn't alone at that level. She had to break the mile record, which was broken in the race before her when she ran with the pros and ran, 4:28, 4:29 or something like that, which is outside of the great Mary Decker. These types of performances at that young of an age, you don't see them, simply not.
And then we also have, here in Jersey, we have a Paige Shepard who's running a 4:43 as a freshman, a 2:07, 2:08. It's not just the boys, it's the girls, and I just think that there's more people involved in the sport, and like Phil said, training, shoes, different track facilities, everything is aligning up now for kids to just run really fast, and I hope that we see them continue to progress as they mature and get older at that next stage, which we are. And so I want to jump into our next topic, because I feel like this one could be a nice and long one, because we've had so much going on. Let's start off NCAAs. We had some great performances, and I just want to give a shout out. If Parker Valby is not at least in the topic for top female athlete at the ESPYs, then the whole entire event is broken. She has 6 national titles this year alone. Dominant too. She won.
No question. And there isn't another female distance runner in the country right now. It seems that way. Seems like it's all Parker Valby right now.
But instead,
for her,
everyone's focused on, did her Nikes have spikes in them? Because they're flats, so they can't have spikes. So Nike hooked her up. Who cares? What's the big deal? She has spikes in her flats.
And with the NIL, who cares?
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
No, she is.
It doesn't matter.
She is an absolute stud, and she's. Does anybody have an update on Caitlin Toohey? Is she hurt? Like, I'm just not sure where she's been. Do you know, Phil?
I don't. I had heard some time ago. Obviously, she was working through some issues, but that was some time ago. But I mean, back to Parker, and I couldn't tell if you guys helped me out. But Sadie Engelhardt I couldn't remember her last name.
Yeah, Engelhardt.
Just old guy. Brain fart there, I guess. But Parker Valby, she runs 14:52 2 days after the 10,000.
Yeah.
After the 10,000. So she doesn't have the number one time in the U.S. for the 5,000, but hers came after a 10K.
Yeah.
And there was the old adage where basically you ran a hard 10K, you needed at least like 6 days of sort of recovery to let your body come back.
Not
She did
anymore.
it 2 days later, goes 14:52. I had the pleasure of seeing her run and talk to her indoors, where she just destroyed things at BU and then came back at the national final and then dropped it down another couple notches. And just like I said about Drew Griffith, it looks casual. It looks so easy. It looks like a tempo run. Even as she's picking it up, you can tell the turnover has quickened down the final 2 or 3 laps. Just makes it look so easy.
It's funny because Parker is going to be the Abby Steiner of this upcoming trials, like where that she's on tired legs, but there's a good chance she still makes that Olympic team, right? Like Abby was on exhausted legs going into, worlds and things like that. And she still ran well. And she's obviously a fantastic pro. She's top 5 in the 200 and things like that. She's fantastic. Parker's going to be in that same situation, but I arguably think Parker's in a better situation because she's just been more dominant than Abby was. Don't get me wrong. Abby was fantastic, but we haven't seen people challenge her. And I feel like...
And the 5K for women is not as crazy to make it as the 200.
And she's the type of athlete, I can already see it, and you saw it when she was battling with Caitlin Toohey, that the challenge doesn't make her fold. She rises. And it's just going to be absolutely exciting to see her battle now against the country's best. And hopefully she makes a team and she gets some rest and we can see her battle against the world's best.
Yeah.
Because she's fantastic.
I have a quick PSA. Kids, everybody out there who thinks I have to go D1 in order to run fast, there's no other option. Look at Shane Cohen. Okay. Yes. He ran a 158 PR in high school. Just won NCAAs in a Robbie Andrews Part 2 type race.
Yep.
144. Same school, Virginia. Again, he was a 158 kid in high school. Any college can get you to run fast. You just got to believe in yourself. And this kid is now 144 NCAA champ. Shane Cohen, to me, was my rock star of this weekend.
Shout out to Robbie for his ex-post. Give me Shane Cohen's phone number.
And he wasn't the only say, original D1 performer.
Right.
At the D1 championships. You had Chekna Traore from Penn State, from Ramapo. And yes, everybody early on when he ran indoors said, hey, this guy's going to be a stud at 200, and he fulfilled that promise. But also in the 10K, just a victim of circumstance, Alex Phillip from John Carroll University. I mean, to me, as I was watching that race, he looked the most.
He looked great. I thought he was going to win.
The most just relaxed, and he made that proper move, going back to the rail, going back to making certain that those meters counted, and then all of a sudden he was caught up in a traffic jam on the I-5 and he had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Shout out to the guy who fell. I preferred his name. I'm sorry, and came back and won.
Oh yeah, Hampton Samuel, yes, just crushed it. But yeah, I thought Alex Phillip was going to win that. I talked to Alex after he won one of his D3 crosses. I talked to him indoors up at BU. Just an incredible talent out of Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary, LeBron James, and the whole everything. But the kid went down to North Carolina. The coaches down there said, you know what, this is a kid we can take to that next level. And he went there, and it's just a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
A running incident, really nobody at fault.
And one more thing. I mean, Arkansas women, first 4 places in the 400. Are you kidding me? Are you
wild? And the winner setting the meet record.
Are you kidding me?
And just fantastic stuff out of that. But
hey, I mean, Sid, 48.7 with a wind. She's back.
And speaking of the D3 thing, I just want to give a shout out to no other than Nick Simmons. Nick Simmons never went D1. Nick Simmons was I think 3-time 800 meter national champion, 3-time 1500 meter champion, more than that, because of indoor at Willamette University in Oregon, and was our leading 800 meter runner for close to a decade. So you don't ever have to go D1 to be great. It all comes with perseverance and work ethic. So it's just very exciting to see where we are right now in terms of running and things like that. So
Alex, just to jump in, if you find a coach that you have a great relationship with, for 5 years, I was helping coach my local high school team here back in Pennsylvania. The gentleman who took over had my kids in class, knew I was a distance runner, say, hey, you want to be my distance guy? But I also then helped in placing these young athletes at colleges. So you go visit the campus, you see what the atmosphere is all about, and then you either connect with the athletes who are there, but more importantly, in my mind, connect with the coach, just the philosophy, just their how they are, how they carry themselves. And I've seen a number of athletes who, come away from Pennsylvania, one of the top 5 or 6 track and field states in the country with state championships, and decide to go D3 because of that coach. They want to be coached by that man or woman.
I love it.
Yeah, 100%. And that makes a absolute huge difference. So we mentioned the Grand Prix earlier. Now, Eric wasn't the only great performance, but you, Dave, you had an issue with free TV. So what happened?
So here's the thing. So we've been saying forever, let's get track on free TV. Well, we had it Saturday, the Nike Grand Prix on NBC, hour and a half. We're just going to see race after race after race. Instead, we saw 35 minutes of blocks. Slipping on the track. I mean, they must have held the 200 for 10 or 15 minutes. And then the whole thing with Fred Curley, I still don't know what the hell happened. He's sponsored by Asics. He forgets his spikes, apparently, or he doesn't like them. I don't know. It depends on who you hear. He has Pumas on. He false starts twice, falls out of the blocks. He doesn't get to run. Find out that he gets dropped by Asics like 10 minutes later. It's 2 weeks before trials. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I was just very disappointed that all we saw was blocks slipping, and that's what the casual fans who watch the meet are going to end up remembering is 30 minutes of block mishaps. And that angers me because the rest of the meet was pretty awesome, but we're trying to get those casual fans more into the sport, and they see 30 minutes of block slipping.
This is a guy that guarantees a 200-meter world record too. And it's like, so he needs to get it together.
But you're right, Dave. I mean, the casual fan, and that's what, like when I'm doing a live stream, I sort of take it from like when I was a daily newspaper journalist many moons ago. You write to a 3rd grade level. Maybe you're going to present it to a 3rd or 4th grade track and field knowledge level. The high hurdles, 39 inches in high school, 42 everywhere else. There's 10 of them. If somebody just happens to be tuning in with their grandson or granddaughter or son or daughter, they're a baseball or football guy, and they don't watch track, but their kids watching, so they're following along, and you just try to give them as much base information. When you see that is the big takeaway from that meet. I wasn't able to watch because I was doing the stream, but I heard about the blocks. I'm like, what the heck's going on?
They were sliding, and then Curly says that's what happens when you bring high school blocks to a pro meet. But I don't know. I don't know what to believe with the whole Fred Curley thing. I mean, how do you lose a sponsor 10 minutes into a meet? Your sponsor fires you because you're having Pumas, but he had on an A6 jersey, and then he doesn't just false start. He face plants, falls out of the blocks. They're slipping back, and then he says that he wasn't disqualified. He chose not to run. The meet says that he's disqualified. I don't know what the hell's going on, but Fred Curley, I mean, 2 years ago, he was the guy, 100-meter world champ. I don't know what's going on there, but I just wish that we had a meet where the focus was on Sydney running 48.7 or, all these great things that or Eric Holt or things like that. But instead, you see on X that blocks were slipping, and it was 30 minutes of the hour and a half coverage. It's just very frustrating.
Jumping back real quick, Dave, to the point about Arkansas and the 400. They've always said you want to build a track program. 400 meters is where you put the focus. 100%. and they put their dollars and some of their cents in the 400.
Yeah.
And wow, it paid huge dividends.
Ooh.
That 4x4 is pretty fun. So yeah, you mentioned Sid running her 48.75 world lead in a ridiculous headwind. But you know what though? Not to be outdone, the rest of the group, the top three running 59.1 and 59.4.
Yeah, but
that type of headwind.
She won by over 2 seconds.
Sid is Sid, but I'm giving credit where credit is due. It was a good group there. Talita Tiggs is a good runner. Stacey Ann is a good runner. You have people that have Olympic standards there. Then you follow back. Gabby Thomas on the back end of a double. She took fourth in the 100. Wins the 200 there in 22.42 with Jenna Prandini in that race, Tamara Clark in that race. And then the men's 200, Noah Lyles running away with it. Angry Noah Lyles, 19.77. So, like you said, Dave, should have been a good meet. Those blocks weren't a problem. The results were there. It's at one of the rare track-only venues, and they couldn't figure out a way to make it perfect. It's crazy that, I call the guys that do ATL, call the guys that do Penn relays. Can we get pro levels things there? Like
blocks.
Don't understand anything. Pro level blocks, pro level, there shouldn't be anything that isn't top notch when you're having not just world class, but world champions competing here.
And that's sponsored by the USATF. You would think that everything would be on point, but.
But I mean, yeah, you talk about meet management. That is huge. I mean, when I go to the Penn Relays, how many hundreds of races do they have? Boston University, the heats and heats of whether it's the mile, the 200, but it was like clockwork. The starters are in command of what's going on. The athletes know they need to be where they should be now, not 5 minutes from now, not 5 seconds from now, and everybody's walks away happy.
And that's the thing, is that you could do that at a meet where all these high school kids who have, some of them have never run, but you can't do that at a pro meet where everybody knows what the hell's going on.
And that's the issue too, especially at these pro meets. When you have these big time names and people that compete, they know how a meet's supposed to be run. So now you're not only sitting there, you're pissing off the pros and some of the big name individuals that are sitting there. And, LA Grand Prix went off without a hitch this year and was a fantastic event.
Noah Lyles had to wait 10 minutes. They had to bring in new blocks for every person on the track.
The other side of the country should be able to get it together. And those should honestly, outside of what goes on at the premier meet should be your LA and NYC Grand Prix. You should have them on both coasts. Those should be your premier meets in the country, and then sprinkle in maybe Texas because they're a hotbed, Florida, Georgia. Let's get some of the hotbeds for track and field. But man, those two should be our premium events. And to see one falter so bad, I hope they learn from their mistakes and that we come back next year and that things are better. But, it's tough to see.
A great Olympics can help make up for that. If everything's on point, which it is going to be. It's the freaking Olympics, barring anything that's unforeseen, we won't have these issues at the Olympics.
Alex, to your point about the major population centers of this country and focuses financially or entertainment, I mean the pros want to be in LA and New York. If they got 2 years left in their career, they believe, hey, I'm going to the Rangers or the Knicks or whatever, or to LA, to the Dodgers, the Angels, whatever it is.
Yeah,
definitely. No, I just would, I know, because it was such a very good meet, and it just makes me mad. But anyway, there's a lot of positive things to also take away, like we mentioned with Sid and other things. So it wasn't all bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of good. And now, we're I'm looking over here. We have our entries for the trials coming up, and I want to talk a little bit about the trials. There is a lot of good athletes coming to this thing. I'm just looking right here.
The hardest team to make in all sports.
Hardest team to make, and you're looking at Sha'Carri Richardson right there. She is over 0.1 seconds ahead of everyone right now with her 10.65. Men, Christian Coleman coming in, Christian Miller up there, Fred Curley. There is a name that is missing, and I have not seen him at all. What's going on with Arian Knighton?
I think he's hurt.
Do you know anything?
No, I did see that today's point.
A tweet today, I think, saying that he's going to miss trials.
Okay. Because we haven't seen him in, I think he has an indoor qualifier that brought him into there.
Same with Marvin Bracey.
Marvin, we haven't seen since basically, I think maybe he ran one outdoor race. But, I'm just looking at some of the start lists here. Maybe I'll share.
Yeah, I mean, Knighton does have his 1972. I assume that's from after July of last year. So, he does have his qualifier already.
He does.
So we'll see if he shows up there. This is the men's 200 here. Kung Fu Kenny is the Devin, which I don't know. I think Noah's an automatic qualifier because he was a world champion. So he is not showing up on these lists, but Noah Lyles is obviously on both men's 100 and 200.
He just ran.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's like if you're an Olympic champion, I don't know if you show up on the list. I think that's kind of well, Sid's there. Maybe this is a weird list, but this is just for the 400 though. Sydney, the top qualifier for the women in the 400. So as we look at these, Phil, anyone that
those aren't updated though because we don't have the Arkansas.
No, we don't. But they'll be. But I'm just looking for now at the tentative list. Phil, anyone that you are hyper excited to see this upcoming trials in 2 weeks?
Well, I know you mentioned him as a former guest of the show and one that I suggested to you guys. Glad he came on. Someone who I covered extensively, high school, Jordan Geist. He went 22:09 in his first trip to Europe, his second meet there. Finished third in a gold continental gold meet. Krauser and Kovacs, those two are pretty much automatic, but
actually Kovacs this year is looking.
I'm sorry?
I said this year Kovacs looks really good.
Oh yes, yeah, and Peyton Otterdahl. Speaking of somebody who's not sponsored, he lost his sponsorship. He was, part of that Nike Throws group, and now unsponsored, unaffiliated, according to the entries. Yep. And Geis has, some minor sponsorship, but those two type of guys, they're both 72, 73 feet throwers in the men's shot put. Take away Krauser and Kovacs, they're winning,
absolutely.
National and world titles, hands down with those marks.
100%. So that's exciting. Dave, anyone that you're looking forward to seeing? I see we have Brock Lesnar's sister right there, Maya, jumping in there.
That's his daughter, right?
Daughter. Is it sister or daughter? I don't know.
I'm not sure. One of them.
Well,
I got to go with Eric Holt. I mean, I know that it's a homer pick, but just what a great, just from talking to him twice, what a great guy. I mean, I'm excited for all of it. I'm excited to see if, because Josette Andrews hasn't run much recently. Hey, there's
Capers right there.
Capers.
Our boy, one of our former guests.
Sent forth. But, Josette, I'm just excited for all of it. And it's such a cheesy answer, but there's so many great storylines going into this.
Yeah, definitely. There is a ton of great storylines. I'm kind of highlighting some of our former guests. We have Hope Bender there, and it's just, it's an exciting time because you're looking at some of these performances. There's Jordan right there again.
Jordan Stafford
over, and there's Jordan right there. There's who else are we looking for over here? We have a bunch of our former guests. But yeah, it's an exciting time. There's
Tanner Berg
there. Tanner Berg right there. We have a lot of people that we're looking forward to seeing over here, and I mean, it's going to be such a great event. Now, I hope they don't screw up the coverage. That is always concerning because here I'm going to highlight the 10K. The 10K, there's always a commercial, and look at the individual.
One commercial. There's like 10 of them.
3 people sub 27 right now going into the race. How long has it been? Maybe Galen was up there, Bernard. You kind of had those two, but then you have Joe Klecker who's capable. Paul Chalimo is capable. Connor Mance.
I think he's focused more on the
he's qualified. I think he's going to do the marathon, but it's just the names up here. You mentioned Alex Phillip over there not too long ago. He's not qualified right now. He might have one more race to try and get in, but I mean, it should be a great event overall. It really should. As we're looking at, a bunch of these entries over here. There's Parker Valby. We mentioned her.
It's just cool that it's not easy to make the U.S. team in distance like it always used to be. Like now, you have to run and be one of the best in the world to make a U.S. distance team, and that's awesome.
And to the conversation about the 10K and the commercials on TV, we'll be back after another mile is in the books. I mean, having commentated on 5,000s, multiple 5Ks in a row at BU or 10Ks outdoors, a couple of them back to back. There are all kinds of things to talk about during a race, not just the athletes. But how people are moving up in the pack, that last kilometer just really broke things up. Obviously, they need to pay the bills with commercials, but so much goes on, and hopefully not bad situations. Let's say like the late fall and trip and such in the men's 10,000 at NCAA's. But so many things happen in that race that the average viewer just misses out on what a 10,000 meter or 5,000 run is. Even the steeplechase, they'll jump aside for a lap or two and come back, and that's only a 7.5 lap race.
Yeah. And what drives me crazy is they figure it out in NASCAR. They figure it out in so many other things that are quote unquote boring.
Right. IndyCar, you're right. Yep.
Baseball's pretty damn boring for the most part, right? But what do? You basically have a radio talk show going on in the middle of every pitch. You have two individuals just kind of shooting the breeze about the sport. They're telling stories. Why isn't that there? And I think part of it is, Phil, you run, you are a runner, you are a coach, you understand the sport very well. So for you, it's easy for you to just kind of talk track and field. But we need more commentary that's also skilled like you, because you have a skill. You have the ability to speak, but we need two people like someone like you. And, I know Kyle Merber is focused on with Michael Johnson right now, but something like you and Kyle just sitting there, just doing commentary during a 10K would be fantastic, right? Because you guys would be able to talk about everything you've seen in the sport, the things that Kyle's done, the things that you have done, and it would just be a really interesting thing. So we need to figure out a way to make this much more exciting. I think that's a big problem here.
Listen,
I understand, and I'm sorry, Dave, that having the play-by-play guy, which I'm normally jumping into that role, and the color guy, who's usually the one that brings all the expertise to the table. But they can, if the play-by-play guy has any background in the sport, where hopefully he or she does, they can carry on that conversation that you just alluded to. Easily. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that makes all the difference.
Alex,
yep.
There were two names that you just showed that I'm very intrigued by. One being Ellie St. Pierre, because she looks like she's on a whole different level after post giving birth. She is just running unbelievable in all distances. And the other one is a Thing Moo. She hasn't run yet.
No.
But do I doubt that she can come out and win? No.
No, yeah, I mean, she is, so far ahead of a talented group of 800-meter runners in the U.S. You look at what happened at the NCAA meet. I thought Michaela Rose, who's a fantastic young lady and an incredible athlete, was a lock for that race. But the young ladies from Stanford, Willis and Whitaker, just that's it.
And they also said that they used Shane Cohen as motivation.
Yeah.
Watching them, but no, I mean, like with a thing, like I still think she can win, not just U.S. but Worlds. But I really want to see her start. Like, what's giving me, I think, some confidence with her, is seeing how well Sydney's running and they train together. So I think that gives me a little more optimism. But I mean, at some point, you have to run, and like you can't stay sharp if you don't race.
What's interesting with the thing,
she did run a 154 last year, and she barely runs. So
what's interesting with the thing as well, though, she looked like she was trying to focus on the 15 a little more. If you look at that 15 list, a Thing's not on it. So even if she wanted to maybe take a break from the 8 and try and go and, become a Olympic champion there, her possibility's done because she hasn't competed. Now, this time she's nursing an injury, and that's what, Coach Kersey has said. And it is what it is. Those things happen in track.
I didn't realize that Nikki Hiltz was sponsored by Lululemon.
Neither did I. Nikki Hiltz right there. But
and complete side trade. Did you see who On Running signed as their spokesperson?
Oh, what was that?
Zendaya.
Which is interesting. And
I like it
for the sport. She is huge amongst kids.
Do you know how many women and men that I work with who have Ons or Hokas who know nothing about running? Like, they are becoming the shoe for nurses or for doctors because they're very comfortable shoes. So having someone like Zendaya can only help. It can help bring the casuals to the sport of running, at least wearing their gear. So I think it's great.
Absolutely. So,
but I mean, yeah, the U.S. trials are going to be absolutely wonderful, and I just can't wait because there's so many storylines. Like, you don't know who's going to qualify in that 15. I mean, you think you have Yared, Hocker, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to ask Phil this question: are you counting out Matt Centrowitz? I'm not.
No, I don't think so. I mean, experience is so much a factor because these aren't PR races. I mean, these are races where it's like, you look over at a guy and it's like, you know what? I just saw something that I am going to jump on and I'm going now, or I'm going to wait. Everybody, each of them knows where they are training wise. If they woke up on the right side of the bed that morning, and nobody else does. But I think somebody like Centrowitz, who's been, he's been around the track many times. It's not his first rodeo, so he can evaluate the situation just as good, if not several times better than everybody else in that race.
Now, I do think if it's a fast pace, I don't like his chances nearly as much as if it's slow. But tactical race, I mean, he's a tactical genius, and he is running 335. So if I'm the other guys, someone's got to go, or else Maddie's going to be right there.
They're not going to. There is no Jakob Ingebrigtsen. There is no Josh Kerr.
I think Yared's good enough.
Yared's not going to go on his own.
Yared could go. I think he's good. I mean, he's a 343 guy.
And here's the thing:
he's a go.
If Yared goes, who's going to go with them and why? Why would you care if Yared Naguse goes? All that matters is top three getting under that standard, right? You got to get 333. If you're there, what else matters? You know what I mean? Don't chase Yared if you don't have to.
I bet you Holt goes with him.
Here's the thing. Here's my prediction. I'm going to give my prediction on my team. I think Yared Naguse kind of runs away at the end, and I think he runs something like 332. I think he runs fast, but not what he's capable of in terms of blazing, right? I think Matty Centrowitz comes in right under the standard, and I think Holt's on his butt right under the standard.
So you don't have Hocker?
I don't have Hocker, and I don't have Hobbs Kessler. I think that they're there, and I think
so close.
I think you're going to see 6 or 7 guys bunched, but I just think this is what Holt's been running these races for, to be experienced amongst these guys, and he just did it at the Grand Prix.
I think it has to go out at a decent pace, like 334 or better, because otherwise you're going to get people in there like some college kid who's just going to get hot and he's going to kick. I think the guys who are good have to take it and go at a decent clip, or else there's going to be too many guys there. What do you think?
Well, I mean, Alex, to your point, you talk about 6 guys. I think with 120 to go, you may have that many guys who potentially, at the look of it, could win. I think it's a huge negative split. I don't think at least the first 500 is going to be that quick. I think the last 1,000 is just going to be continue to build, and then crazy the last 100 meters.
Here's the thing, though. If you're Eric Holt, you have to push because you have to get the standard, right? It doesn't matter if you're top 3 if you don't have the standard. So he has to get the standard.
How does this 351? I guess they don't do conversions.
I mean, he could possibly argue if he wants to, but I don't know if they're going to give that to him in the the.
Well, 351 might only be 334 anyway. So
it could be. So I don't know what that conversion would be, but if you're someone like Eric Holt, you're someone that doesn't have that Olympic qualifying time, you got to push.
Right.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, because if he doesn't get it, then it'll be Yared, Hocker, and probably Kessler, right?
I think
they might be the only ones who have. I don't even think Maddie has it now.
No, Matt doesn't have it yet. So it's got to be quick. But if you're someone like Yared, you don't care, right?
Oh,
you're confident. You know that you have a 331, 332 in your back pocket, which is ridiculous, right?
He's got a 343 mile in his back pocket.
Exactly. So it's like
he ain't care about the 331.
Does not care as long as you finish in the top 3 and you're in the goose, you're fine. So,
but you know what it is? Like, we could have this conversation for almost every event on the US side, except for a couple. Like Phil said, I think shot put, the top 2 are pretty set. I mean, nothing's ever set, but I mean, it would take a bad day for either one of those.
They just have to get one legal throw in their problem.
Yeah, I mean, like
each of them, like
they throw 74 feet in there, and they're like, bad day.
Jordan's right there, but Jordan is right there. Yeah. He needs just have one PR throw, and he's right in. But
I mean, like every event, men and women, minus a few, like I mean, 400 hurdles,
Right.
girls side. But like it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fantastic. And like, you just don't know. Like, that's why let's put this on DraftKings. Let's put this on somewhere. Let's get the sport out there. Put some betting on it.
Well, I mean, you look at this is the bread and butter period of time. You had NCAAs, you have for the people in New Jersey, meet of champions. Then you go back to, you got the U20 meets, you have Brooks PR, you have, the New Balance Nationals. Then you come up with the trials. It's like, holy cow. I mean, these meets are crazy.
Then you had Diamond League, and then you got the Olympics.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to be.
And you had Diamond League after the Olympics for those people still chasing their times. Because what I love about the Olympics, Phil mentioned earlier, we've gotten so far away from the art of racing. It's everything time trial. People are happy getting 10th place because they run 350. Whereas these races, it's about racing. Place means everything. Time is irrelevant.
Ask Fingerbritson about that.
So we are bringing.
Don't get me started about pacing lights.
I know.
Yes. Are you on my side for hating them?
No, I do not like pacing lights.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah, you're an outsider. I think I like them for the casual fan. I think it's the first down marker in football. It makes it easier. Like, my fiance can be watching, like, oh, they're ahead of the actual lights. Like, yeah, like, so for the casual fan, I like it. And I do watch them. Say I'm watching like a Diamond League where they're going for a world record. I do watch the lights, so I am guilty. I don't hate them for the casual fan. I don't think we need them in the Olympics or any time where it's all about place, and I don't think we need them in high school meets.
You know?
That would definitely be sacrilegious in my opinion. But it's. I mean, I like my track math and doing that, so I can, in my head, here we are. That's like
you do, yes, but because you know the sport. But I'm talking about to try to get the average person who knows nothing.
Yep. Let's take this the next step. If they are on world record pace, you get WWE pyrotechnics instead of lights firing out as they're finishing their race. So it feels like they're getting gunshots after them, so they have to run faster. There we go. You really want to make the sport exciting?
Listen, I am
with Usain Bolt going off as Noah Lyles is trying to chase it.
I'm also the same guy who thinks that they should impose things on the screen. Casual fan, like show a bus on its side while Mondo's going over the pole, so that the casual fan, because we have to assume, just like Phil said when he's announcing that they don't know anything, and that's a way for them, or say, hey guys, Ryan Krauser, go to your local bowling alley, pick up a 16-pound bowling ball, see how far that you can throw. Like anything to just bring in the casual fan and put it in layman's terms, so that these people can realize what an amazing sport that they are missing out on.
Phil, have you ever thought about doing something like that? Have you thought about possibly bringing a bunch of translations with you over to, some of your announcements, and like when you see, a shot putter throwing X amount, be like, hey, that's equivalent to, if you're in Pittsburgh, Big Ben throwing in a 25-yarder, like, go pick up a football now and try throwing 25. Or like he said, if someone does a high pole vault, hey, you in your 2-story house, he just jumped. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that could be something that could be interesting, that maybe you give a tidbit, and if you have a funny, it might go viral. Like, make something hilarious. Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, long jumpers jumping over the living room, basically, that type of thing. Bob Beeman, at first, Dave, I thought you were talking about having Mondo pole vault over school buses, like
no,
did back in the day. Okay,
having the school bus on its like up
CGI.
and down, impose on the screen. But hey, listen, why not? Who are we talking to where they jumped over a blank wall? Oh,
Matt Ludwig.
He said he was at a meet where the pole, like, you couldn't see through and you were jumping over a wall. He said it was a little scary.
Holy cow. That's the Mid-American Conference, right? That was a Mac for you.
He had no warm-up. It was in some other country he did. He had no warm-up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cold, and he had the clear.
It was like 15 feet, so he knew that he could do it, but he was like, that's a wall. Like, I'm running straight towards a wall and jumping over
I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he recently had a scare where his pole just broke on him not too long ago as he was going up. And he had some gnarly bruises on the side, but that comes with the sport, right? So as we hit the hour mark, I want to get into our last topic here, and it falls into a lot of things that we were just talking about. Big meets, big events, but we have a problem. We've talked about it on this show before. We want to get Phil's insight on this. There are the haves, there are your Noahs, your Sids, your Ryan Krausers, your haves in the sport of track and field, and then everyone else is the have-nots. To bring a little bit of like a political thing, you want to talk about your 2%ers? Track and field's got the 2%ers. Right. Everyone else in the sport is the 90%, 98%, right? So what do you feel about the way the sponsorships work in the sport? Because we've complained about it till we're blue in the face. I want to get your opinion.
Well, I know that the tiers of meets, that the IAAF or World Athletics has, the gold, the bronze, and, all that. And the money goes accordingly. Just with, I know Jordan Geist getting himself in his first gold and placing third and those types of opportunities. I know I was talking to him. He came back to Pennsylvania to be inducted into a local Hall of Fame. And he was just talking about the opportunity, hopefully after whatever happens with the trials and Olympics, potentially for him, the Diamond League meets. Again, huge meets for these athletes who do not have sponsorship. If they can get into one or two Diamond League meets, or even not a Diamond League meet, just a Continental Gold, where that sponsorship money is increased over what they normally potentially could get, or maybe don't get at all, by going to a college invite in April or May to try to get that mark, and now how do they pay for all that training from March and April? And Matt Ludwig, he was a great vaulter at the University of Akron. He was one of the top 5 or 6 guys, but
he's an Olympian. Yeah, he's an Olympian. He went to the Olympics.
Right.
He's still begging.
Right. Exactly.
It sucks.
And he is not the only one. Eric Holt, I know the people up at Boston University love him because a lot of times he was paying the bills, I assume, by being a rabbit up there, even though he was just as talented and could run almost as fast as the guys he was rabbiting for.
So I quickly want to jump in with our buddy Eric Holt over there. Moments after taking second, he did a spot. Yep. Sidious Mag covered it. I want to play it real quick if we have the time. Let's see. Boom.
Shoes I'm wearing, I paid for out of my own pocket. I got paid for all my own shoes, all my own physio. I have to pay for everything. I lose money in this sport. I don't gain money. And that's the same thing our whole club is. And the problem is I'm a little older. I just started getting good at 29 years old. So I'm just showing people that if you have the desire, if you're good enough, anything happen. And my dream to make this fairy tale ending is one day be sponsored. I hope to do in my career.
How you against me?
So I worked a job in a psych ward, and I live with my parents. Luckily my parents are a little older. My dad's in his 70s. So even though I used to be embarrassed about it, I know I get to spend time with my dad in his older ages, and it means a lot to me. So, and I luckily have a very supportive girlfriend. When we go out, she pays for every single meal, and I told her when I get sponsored, I'll pay for the meals this time, and that's my dream. So, I'm sacrificing everything. I'm gambling, and I'm betting my life and everything that I'm going to be a pro one day, and I hope for it to come true.
So,
he's as much of a pro as anybody.
And shout out to Sidious for putting that out there, and they had a nice blurb there, what they said, but it's absolutely embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing that Eric Holt can go out there, finish fractions behind a world champion who's sponsored, and in front of a ton of other individuals who's sponsored, and he is there, obviously emotional, obviously upset after setting himself up for a potential Olympic run. It's you don't find this in any other sport. No. I really don't feel like you find this in any other sport.
Talking about moving in with his parents, a part-time job, and he isn't the only one. You can hear this.
There's a lot.
Obviously, you have people being, substitute teachers, being whatever that will allow them the flexibility in training time where they don't have to go out.
Was up in colleges, and they became like assistant coaches, and they coached.
We had a whole series of
7 of them basically.
And like
same thing.
the fact, like Eric Cole told us last week, he'd love to compete in Europe. He can't get there.
Right.
Shout out to those colleges and those coaches that are allowing those athletes to do that. You guys are heroes.
Yeah, basically volunteer assistant coaches. You're correct.
So they get trained. And it's not like Eric is like he's running with like his coach is John Troutman, like a legend,
Right.
a legend. Like I don't get it. I mean, we've had him come on twice, so it might sound like we are very pro Eric Cole
Absolutely.
on this show. He's a great guy. He takes his time to come, and we're not saying like he deserves it. He's running fast enough to get something. Like he shouldn't have to have these interviews after running that race. That shouldn't be on his mind. He should be, I'm getting ready. I just, I'm bummed that I just lost out to Jake Whiteman, but instead he has to plead his case. He almost has to beg, and it just angers me.
No, I mean that was a tearjerker in my mind. I was just like, wow, that's so sad. As you said, Dave, that should have been a high moment. Even though yes, he did lose out to Whiteman by the narrowest of margins, but again, a world champion. It wasn't an off race for either of them.
Oh,
so it wasn't like, the world champ didn't run well, and this guy sneaks up and finishes second. But again,
Fisher, he beat a lot of guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when he's in that situation, like I said, he was picking up spending money or training money by being a rabbit at BU, and they knew that he had the skill to bring the field through what they needed. He did it. He stepped off. He did his job, and now he's hopefully doing his job for the full distance and getting on a team.
Can you imagine being like, I have a great chance to qualify for the Olympics and represent my country, but I can't take my girlfriend out to eat freaking dinner?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking this up over here. So I have Hobbs Kessler, sponsored by Adidas. He beat him. Grant Fisher, sponsored by Nike. Probably the greatest American distance runner, since.
Well, he's sponsored for different events, but
still sponsored by Nike. Jake Whiteman over here, sponsored by New Balance. I'm looking up Vince Chieti. I wonder if Vince Chieti is sponsored. Sorry, I butchered your name. I don't know if I'm saying your name right.
Yeah, it says Under Armour Dark Sky Distance is his club.
Okay, so it's like all of these guys that he is beating are all sponsored top level athletes. He is the only one, and he has been putting in these performances week after week. And here's the thing: Grant, Vince, Hobbs, Jake can have off races, right?
Drew Hunter is sponsored. Eric Cole beats him every time.
Is sponsored.
I love him.
Nothing against, and these guys can all have off races because they have that fallback. They have that cushion.
He can't.
Eric Holt's competing for his existence right now, and he cannot have an off race, or otherwise he's like that. He's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Gus Farrar, if you want to make a football reference. They have bad games. They get pulled because they're 5th, 6th, 7th round guys in the NFL. That first round draft pick is freaking Zach Wilson, that jerk. Just gets every chance possible and falls on his face. Not saying those guys are Zach Wilson, but I'm just saying they have much more of a leash. And like we said, we focus on Eric because we love Eric here. He's fantastic. We've had him.
Well, he's a good example of,
we focus on Capers Williamson, who's 4th in the javelin, who has to quite literally eat ice chips at times because he doesn't have any food to eat. 4th in the javelin, setting up to try and be an Olympian. We have all the other guys, Justin Stafford, Tanner Berg that we've talked to, Hope Bender, who are working multiple jobs, volunteer as coaches. And like we said, these are people that are not schlubs. They are top 10 in our country, some of the best athletes on the planet. And they could barely make ends meet. So,
yeah,
granted, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, there is a fine line between those who are able to get into a situation, and normally they have 1 or 2 good years. Maybe if it's right out of college or in college, they get set up with a contract, hopefully for them, thankfully, it's a long-term deal, and then maybe they're not delivering. And we've seen athletes, like I said, Peyton Otterdahl, lost his, and he's still, now he's crushing it this year, and he is going to be in that tight battle for the number 3 shot spot. Yeah. But how he lost it, he still was in the top 10 in the world, yet he lost his deal. So you can. Sometimes it seems like, how does that athlete still have a contract? And then how did this person lose it? I don't know the answers to those questions, and only those athletes and their sponsors probably do.
And God bless someone like Marcel Jacobs, wins the 100 in the Olympics, has done nothing since, but he's still sponsored. I mean, I guess he just won the Europeans this weekend, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't get the who's sponsored, who's not, what the criteria is.
There needs to be a union.
What is it based all on times? Is it? I mean, is it based on play?
Honestly, that's the only answer, right? Because in order to protect the bottom, you need to unionize in these types of situations where, and Shikari was trying to do that at Worlds.
Other sports do it.
Shikari was actively trying to get the USATF members to meet to talk about better treatment. And I don't know if anyone did, but there needs to be a union. And it takes, the top athletes to do it. It takes Noah. It takes Shikari. It takes Ryan Krauser. It takes Sid. It takes a thing.
Do they want to, though? Because they are getting theirs. I don't know.
And that's the thing. It takes Christian Coleman. It takes these top individuals to say,
but they are getting theirs. So do they?
The week.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to force the agents to make better contracts. You know what I mean? Because these contracts only favor the great ones. And
but who's going to do that?
I mean, hopefully Michael Johnson in his league has a stipulation in terms of the contract. Hopefully our buddy Kirk Berridge, if he gets Trackstar League out and does what he wants to do with that, can help it improve the situation. But that's the only way it's going to improve. If the big names make the difference. And
there has to be contracts.
There has to be a union and there has to be contracts.
I think Michael Johnson is talking contracts. Like, you run a certain amount of meets for my league.
Yep.
You get paid a certain amount with a points system, where like there's, I don't know. His league intrigues the hell out of me because he's a track guy. He's got money. He brought in Kyle Merber. So
we didn't talk about this. Phil, I want to get your opinion. Dave, obviously yours. Michael Johnson should say, if you run in my league, you can run nowhere else. Exclusivity is massive. Look at the PGA. Listen, UFC did it young, and no one thought they were going to survive. And look at UFC now. Look at boxing. Boxing, you still make a ton of money, but boxing's been a mess for the longest time because you can fight for whatever promotion you want. If Michael Johnson says, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of money, you can only run in my league.
It depends on how much money he's offering.
Oh, right.
And, I mean, obviously, if it's high enough, that's fine. But it's going to be hard in a track to tell athletes they have to go to certain meets. Like, it's...
You tell Eric Holt you can only go to my 8 meets. Right. Eric Holt's going to say no?
That's Eric Holt, but I'm like, you're not going to get Noah or Sid to a degree. I mean, because they're already making millions from their sponsors.
You do have with running a fairly rabid fan base, but if you compare it to the multitude of, let's say, golf with LIV and everything was going on there, there's no comparison.
Nope.
And also the sponsorship money from the financial firms and everything like that.
So much greater. Yes.
Right, yeah. And also governments or regimes, wherever you want to look at the Saudis,
Yeah, there is a huge difference there. So, that's it. Actually, Saudis, get interested in track. Let's go. We need some Saudi prince.
We need a Saudi prince, yes.
Let's get a Saudi prince. Phil, how many Saudi princes you know?
None, unfortunately.
Have you ever gotten any emails from the Nigerian princes that just need you to send $10,000 and they'll send you $1 million?
Have you all gotten those? Yeah.
So, Phil, what is your idea on how we could potentially fix this discrepancy?
I wish I had a solution because I would, I'd be the guy.
I think it's money
pushing it. It does come down to money because the U.S. does have a great collegiate infrastructure, high school infrastructure. Track and field is still one of the not the most popular sport participation wise across the country. You got the big states, you got the California, you got Texas, New York, Ohio, PA, Florida. They're all big
Jersey
states, right? Jersey, yes. But and looking forward to meet a champs in a couple of days.
I'm looking forward to shaking your hand in person.
Cool.
So, that kind of saves our question on how we can improve track and field, right? Because I think we just kind of I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, it's going to take money and a lot of it and better facilities here. And and like we said, I'm curious on what's going on in Vegas with that indoor facility. We need to get an update. I'm going to try and reach out to them.
It's an indoor and an outdoor. Apparently, it's I'm sorry,
open.
It's a 400-meter indoor retractable roof and a 200-meter bank track inside of the 400-meter track,
which is awesome.
Crazy, yes.
And
I want to know what's happening because I haven't heard much about short track, about having the 200-meter tracks outdoor, which is what Sebco wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Well, and that's the other thing. going to the debate about PRs versus PBs, Europe versus US. I'm old school US PR, and so, but the base obviously of Diamond League and everything is in Europe. I mean, until the US gets more of those meets, it's not going to happen.
And D1 Diamond League every year in the U.S. is probably the biggest Diamond League meet to Prefontaine. At least it's up there. Right. So Europeans will come here if the money's right.
Sure.
But we also can't expect everyone to just come here because we're having meets here. So there has to be. But we definitely need more of it here, and we need to get more track facilities. Not everything can always be in Eugene.
Yeah.
Not everything can always be there.
Yep.
Honestly, I think that if LA and New York City Grand Prix become things every year where they become venues that people want to go to, we'll start to see the Europeans come there, because what European doesn't dream of walking around New York City, right? And being there, or going in LA and rubbing elbows with some of the big wigs there. I think that, and we need to get RG3s, more of them, to go to the meets. I'm happy he's talking about them.
Well, he was at the college meet.
He was at the college meet, but he needs to be at these big pro meets. So he's rubbing elbows with Noah Lyles. He's talking to some of these individuals and interview. We need RG3 out interviewing. I'm sorry.
ESPN has to send him to these meets.
And RG3 goes.
He was at college because ESPN.
Michael Johnson, take that $30 million and spend it on RG3. It would be well spent, okay? Because get him involved as well in this new league.
Just because he's known.
I'll take 500,000. I don't need $1 million.
Yeah.
I'll take 50. Give me 50,000 and I'll just go work for you.
I'll take $50.
It'll pay for my hotel in Jersey to come see you on Wednesday, Dave.
Listen, man, down in Pennsauken.
There we go.
It's a beautiful track.
All right, guys, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So once again, that was Phil Grove. He is a FloTrack live stream announcer, PA MileSplit writer over there, and he's at Old School Track on Twitter and X. Dave, that was a fun conversation.
That was awesome.
Yeah, we always enjoy having Phil on. I'm going to throw on some of his stuff down there. Go follow him on X, on Instagram, and he's just a wealth of knowledge. Dave, I always have a good time. What are you looking forward to with Mox real quick? Are you any specific race? Who from Manasquan? Is anyone from Manasquan going?
Yes, we have Ace Etienne. He qualified in the 110 hurdles. He's a sophomore. We had 11 kids make it from sectionals to a group, so that was a good start. I mean, in terms of what I want to, there's so much. Obviously, every distance event on both sides. The men's 100 is going to be. Boys 100 is going to be electric. We had 2 kids going 16 feet in the vault at groups, 200-foot discus thrower, 69-foot shot putter. It's going to be electric, but I think the most competitive, if they all run it, would be the girls 800 is pretty damn.
Girls 8. And it's looking, and I think it's shaping up like most of the athletes are hanging around. So I'm excited to see, if they stay hanging around, then they.
And then we got nationals.
And then we have nationals. So I'm absolutely excited to check it out and see what it is. Is Phil back? Are you back, Phil? Phil, are you back for a second?
Hey, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
No, I was going to say you just popped off, but we're about to, actually start signing off anyway. So Phil, we appreciate you jumping on.
Oh, hey, thanks a lot, guys. Dave and Alex. Dave, looking forward to meeting you on Wednesday.
Yep.
Again, the Meet of Champions. I've loved the meet. And I don't think maybe you guys hit this, but I know a lot of states are looking at how do we bring together all the best within our state, and New Jersey
is one of the few who does it. Yeah, it's been a little
touch and go.
Rough lately because of how far back it is. It used to be a week earlier. Now there's a little bit of it should be okay this week, but in the past there's been the interactions where kids couldn't go because they want to go to nationals.
Exactly right. Yeah.
It used to be 1 week earlier, which was better because then you had about 10 days off for nationals. But it sounds like this year it's going to be all right, especially now with nationals being right in Philly.
Yeah,
it's a lot closer of a drive. So it's you're going to be in for a treat, man. There's a lot of great talent in this state, and I'm just pumped that you're going to be there and you're going to be announcing it.
So,
I think it's my third time out there. Sorry, but I love working with Robert Kellert from New Jersey MileSplit and his crew. Jim Lambert, Robert's a great guy, and Jim obviously extremely knowledgeable in the sport and also New Jersey's history in it.
So, quick, Dave, are you going to be wearing a Talking an Oval shirt?
Probably.
So, Phil, what is the chance that two of our former guests will let Dave sit at the table and talk some track and field on the live stream?
I don't know about that, dude.
I have no problem with it.
And I don't think Robert will. Dave, here's your time to shine. Go get on the live stream, baby.
It would be an honor, but I'm not expecting it in any way.
I'll talk to my producer, Dave.
Hey, listen.
Always got to sweeten the deal. So, again, he is Phil Grove, FloTrack live stream announcer, Pennsylvania MileSplit writer. And, you can follow him at Old School Track on Twitter, Old School Track XC on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter, X, whatever it is, at Talking in Ovals. Find us on Instagram as well at Talking in Ovals. What a surprise. And, we're pumped. We'll be back next week for some more fun, as always. And, thank you everyone for watching on YouTube. Thank you everyone for watching on X. Go give us a follow, a like, subscription, whatever you want to do there. And spread it word of mouth. We'll be back. We'll have some fun some more. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, listening, all the good stuff. So long, y'all.